Thank you all for being able to adjust those who are coming in. Thank you so much. We apologize for that technical difficulty. Blame it on me, but we'll be moving forward in just a second. But welcome to Transportation Versatran's e-link. Hopefully you gained some content today that will be useful in your everyday work. We'll get started in about 6 minutes. So if you still haven't made it back from the restroom or whatever else you need to do, go ahead and handle that. We'll be starting shortly. If you want to, feel free to put your name and your location in the chat as a means of your personal attendance. But we will get started in just a moment. For those of you who were supposed to start at 7:15 this morning, and you actually saw that document go out, please know that that document is now closed because it was a type all. Everybody was typing all in the document, and we are working to correct the different names that are in that particular document. So do not worry about that 7:15 document that went out. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, Lord, have mercy. Good afternoon. What'd you say? Good afternoon, everyone. We will give about 4 more minutes for participants to hop on. Thank you all for being flexible and shifting with us to this new link. Thank you very much. If you have friends out there that you know should be participating, show them to their email or direct them to their email. I did send out a new link that has the information in there about this new session location. While we're waiting to begin the session, can anybody come off mute and just tell me how your day has been going so far? Has the content been useful? Have you been finding resourcefulness throughout the district learnings? Like, give me your feedback a little bit. Let me know how things are going today. And don't all jump at once. Nobody? Okay. I'm cool with that too. Do you have any expectations around what you'll be learning today in this session? And feel free to come off mute and state your piece if you'd like.
I am looking forward to learning more about this. I have access to the arrival board and also just the regular Versatrans.
Okay.
But there is not a day that goes by that I do not get a parent that calls and says their bus did not come. And no matter how much we try to direct them back to the transportation call center, they complain that they can't get through. And then the arrival board, although we have access to that, there was never any training given to that. So we're just kind of trying to get our way through it and just to learn more about how to use that.
Perfect.
I think would be helpful to everyone. Yeah.
Thank you so much for saying that. I don't know if that'll be touched on in our presentation today, but it is certainly on my list of things that we can collaborate on for future developments that can go out. So thank you for saying that. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, sir.
On late buses, I work in Arts Impact with the orthopedically impaired program.
Yes, sir.
And we constantly have buses late, but they used to have something on Twitter or something that gave the list of buses that were running late and how late they were running.
Gotcha.
But that seems to have disappeared. What are they going to do with that? Are they going to come up with something else?
Mr. Thompson, you're trying to eat up our presentation before we get started.
Is that on the presentation?
I believe some content about that might exist somewhere in there. But if not, Ms. Cornell certainly can answer your question when everybody else jumps on. So we will certainly entertain that a little bit later down the line.
All right, well, then I won't interrupt your presentation then.
No, no interruption whatsoever.
Well, it's just a question. My wife also works with special needs preschool down at Cedarwood, and so we have the same situation. We get late buses all the time, and it's just tough not knowing when they're going to be there or if they're going to be there. So it's just a
Understood.
question to throw out. So
Understood. Thank you.
thank you.
We'll certainly make sure we get that addressed. And like I mentioned, Ms. Cornell may be able to address that directly. So we'll make sure we get that out there. Anyone else have any questions before we get started about your expectations for today? What you hope to learn? All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Lydia Wiggins. I am a manager in the training and development department here for our classified staff. Today's offering is transportation Versatran's e-link, the systems. I have Mickey Cornell on the line with us who will be actually presenting the content that will be shared out. If you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. I will do my best to ensure that she's able to answer them either during the presentation or at the end. There will be room for questions if you do have those. So at this time, Mickey, feel free to take it away.
Thank you, Lydia. And good afternoon, everyone. As Lydia mentioned, my name is Mickey Cornell. I am one of the supervisors of the Transportation Call Center. I'm happy that you all have joined us today. And as Lydia said, hopefully you will get some knowledge and information that is helpful, and I will certainly do my best to answer any questions that you may have. So I'm just going to start our slideshow presentation here. And again, thank you, Lydia, for your assistance with all of this. So in our session today, we're going to discuss a few different topics, but we're going to discuss briefly the transportation staff at the compounds, the call center, and our dispatch, how to determine rider eligibility, the policies, procedures, and guidelines that we follow in assigning routing, the importance of Infinite Campus, how to access that Versatran's e-link system and use. We will also briefly discuss Form 1s, Form 2s, temporary bus passes. Another popular topic is the discipline on the bus and any video requests. And then, of course, the important phone numbers for you to use and remember in regards to transportation. Just to briefly go over our locations, we do have a total of 5 compounds. Those are at 3 different locations. Fort Hays and Fort Special are on the same lot, even though they are separate compounds. But just to give you an idea of staffing and employees, we have 2 supervisors at Fort Hays to handle 116 bus drivers. Fort Special has 3 supervisors for their 120 drivers. Freebus had 2 supervisors with 107 drivers. Moeller with 2 supervisors, 114 drivers, and Morris Road has 2 supervisors for 124 drivers. That just to give you an idea of the grand picture that we're looking at here, and as far as our challenges that we have with the number of employees versus the number of supervisors. The call center, since we started, and it will be almost 15 years ago in August, we have always been fully staffed with 7. This year, and with COVID and with emergency funds and such that were available, we were given permission to add 4 additional staff for up to 3 years, and that will be looked at on a year-to-year basis. So we're very excited that right now we're at 10 staff in the call center. We have 1 more to go with interviews that we're doing this week and next week. So that will put us at 11 staff, which again, in 15 years, we've never had more than 7. So that's very exciting for us to be growing our staff there. Especially just to give some little insight, at the beginning of the school year, we averaged 1,500 to 2,500 calls a day that are attempted to come through the call center. So with 7 representatives, of course, that was challenging. It'll still be challenging with 11, but we will be able to provide more service than we've ever been able to provide before. Our dispatchers started this year with 4. We did have 1 that needed to be backfilled. And then they also were able to add 2 additional. So dispatch now has a total of 7 dispatchers, again, to handle the 550 some drivers that we have. So we are excited for the call center and dispatch to be growing our staff there. So next, we're just going to go into who can ride the bus and how to determine eligibility for students. So for Columbus City School students, students are eligible for transportation as long as they live within the Columbus City School District and live more than 2 miles from the school that they are attending. The student does have to be attending either their home school, a citywide alternative, or a conventional school that is within that home community. For our K-8 students, again, as long as they live more than 2 miles away, their bus stop will be within 1/2 mile from the student's home address. With our high school students, of course, they can go to any high school. And again, they will be given transportation as long as they live within the Columbus City School District or more than 2 miles from that school from the home address. And those high school stop locations are primarily at open school buildings. That's where the typical high school stop is located. And most high school stops are more than 1 mile away. They do not have that same 1/2 mile guideline as the K-8 students. And then the only other exception, of course, are our children with the IEPs. We will accommodate whatever is in that IEP for their transportation purposes. Just everything does have to be in the system and on that IEP for us to do that. We do have families call and ask that we can, put a harness or car seat or something like that on the child's transportation. But again, we follow everything that is in Infinite Campus and is on that child's IEP for that. So it does all start with Infinite Campus. That is where we draw all of our information. So the transportation is assigned per the information on that student record in Infinite Campus. Of course, most important being the enrollment, that we have them showing at the right school. Any flags that we need, whether that be an IEP, it could be Project Connect. There's out of district open enrollments. So those flags are very important as well. And then of course, the primary address. We do only route to and from the primary address. So as long as that is correct in Infinite Campus, then we're good to go. So each night, the information from Infinite Campus is transferred into our Versatran's eLink, the routing and planning area. There are 2 different eLinks that we use. There is eLink routing and planning, which again is us planning for the future. There is also an eLink actual, which is what is assigned today for that student. So we have 2 different links. They're all exactly the same, except one has eLink RP and the other has eLink RP actual. Username and passwords are the same for both systems and for everyone in the district. The school locations, your username and password are all lowercase, CCS trans. And again, that can be used in both of those links. Just an important note that all changes take effect only on Mondays and Thursdays. We do that so that the drivers have time to notify the students of any changes. If we add a new stop or take one away, that changes times for all the other students on the route. So it does give time for the drivers to be notified, the children and parents to be notified, and then the actual change will take effect. And just a reminder, the eLink actual, which again is what is assigned as of today, the students must be in there before they can ride the bus. And that is because they will not show on the driver's roster until they're actually showing in that eLink actual. I've included an example here of an address change, just so we can follow a little bit through the system and see how it works. This one shows an address was updated on February 22nd. So we see an old address that was at Terrence Avenue. New address is at Hamilton Square Boulevard. So this screen I've included on the left-hand side is what eLink actual looks like. So what is actually assigned to that student as of today. And these, of course, again, we're back in February. So the left-hand side can see the address information at the bottom there, which was the old address, and they have routing assigned per that. On the right-hand side, it shows the eLink RP, the routing and planning. So planning for the future for this new address change for this student. And on that screen at the bottom, you can see the new address is listed. We have a new routing at the top. And in the transportation comment, we have a start date of March 3rd. So again, the old routing, or as far as for the old address, will stay in effect until the new routing starts. So for this student, on any day in eLink actual, you would see the old routing for the old address on Terrence Avenue up until March 3rd. And then as of March 3rd, it showed the new routing for the student. The other most popular reason that this system is used is to pull reports. So you can actually pull a copy of that route, simply going under reports and then route stop location. The right-hand side shows you would just in the school area, select what your school is. And then the left-hand side gives you a list of all the routes for your school. So you can simply select the route from that list of which route report that you're looking for. It will pull up in two different ways. It first pulls up by showing the list of all of the students that are assigned to that route. So if you at the school needed to pull, for example, this one is Route 5, what all students are there, the very first thing that will come up will be all the students listed on that route. On the right-hand side, it gives the example of the route itself without student names. And that just gives you a quick glance of all the stops that are on the route, their scheduled time, and so forth. At the top of there under report, there is a button that you can select or deselect to show the students at each stop. So if you want just stop locations, you would not have a check mark there. If you want the student names along with every stop location, you would simply just check mark that box, show the students at these stops. Forms and temporary passes. Thanks to COVID, this has changed compared to how we've always done business before. So since COVID, for the past 2 years now, we do not do any alternate address routing or Form 1s, except for latchkey. That is something for in the future we do not see changing. So the Form 1s, again, will not be accepted or processed for any other reason except for latchkey. I will say in the past, when that was something we used to do, we would get anywhere from 150 to 250 requests a day for these type of changes. So that truly was a premier service, I would say, that we were able to provide, but due to COVID and staffing changes and issues, that is just not something going forward that we see coming back. Unless we one day have 1,000 drivers lined up outside the door that want to drive for us, we could possibly bring this back. Form 2s are designed to request a sibling to ride along on a special needs bus. That request for reassignment has to be processed before the student is allowed to ride that bus. And that sibling does also have to be eligible for transportation. So for example, if I am the closest public access student, that I get a bus that picks me up at home. And if Lydia is my sibling, however, she is deemed a walker, she would not be allowed to ride that bus with me. But if Lydia is an eligible bus rider and has a bus assignment, but just gets picked up at a different location at a corner rather than the house, then that Form 2 can be submitted for the two of us to ride together on the same bus. So as long as the students live together in the same household, going to the same school, and are both eligible, that Form 2 will allow that regular student to ride on that special needs bus as long as there is a seat available. Temporary passes, again, are something that we have done in the past and have not done since COVID due to the contact tracing, seating arrangements, and seating charts daily that we have to fill out. Students can only ride the buses that they are assigned to. So the temporary passes are something we have not accepted for the past few years, and those will not be coming back next year also currently. So unless something changes there, we'll let you know. But it does look like we're going to stick to, they have to be assigned to the bus and no temporary passes in the foreseeable future. We do receive a lot of questions in regards to discipline on the bus, bullying and other things going on. A lot of questions come, can a driver suspend a student from the bus? A bus driver cannot suspend or discipline a student. They can certainly do a write-up and submit that to the school, but only the school administrator has the authority to discipline or suspend due to behavior on the bus. Oftentimes, in order to verify what really happened, that video would need to be viewed to make sure. So just to give a refresher here of where the video view request is, it is actually found on the intranet. On the left-hand side, there's quick links, and under that, there's documents and forms. You would simply click on that documents and forms, can scroll down to the e-forms, and I believe it's the second one listed there that says CCS bus video request form. You would just click on that link, and that will walk you through putting that request in. I will say currently they're on about a 1 to 2 day turnaround time with video requests right now, which is good. Of course, at busier times of year, it takes a little longer, and they do certainly look at those in regards to the severity of what the issue is, assaults and so forth. We're going to get to as fast as we possibly can. Sometimes student behavior will come behind those more heightened requests. The important phone numbers. We in the call center believe that everyone in Columbus and in the district is aware of the 614-365-5074. That is the main transportation number to call, whether you're waiting on a bus or if you just have any general questions. We will say we've gone to a new phone system this year, and our message is pretty clear at the beginning. We want to let staff and parents know that at our drive times, when we're getting students to and from school, we do only take calls for parents, schools, or others checking on the bus. Any general questions trying to determine is a student eligible or requesting a stop change or anything other than waiting on the bus, we take those calls from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So if someone were to call at 8 a.m. With a general question about what if I move, we're going to advise them that they have to call back between 10 and 2. We do want to keep the lines open at drive time to only check on the parents and schools that are still waiting for buses to arrive. Our call center is open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. Of course, at drive times, our queue can be lengthy at times. I will say here recently, we have not seen wait times more than like 10 minutes for the most part. Our average hold times have been much lower than earlier in the year. So as we get closer to the end of the school, this is something that happens every year. But we do ask that folks just bear with us. We will always answer. We will always get to the call if they're able to hold. And as someone mentioned at the beginning of this call, the call center is the only one that will be able to track a bus and let a parent know, has it been there, has it not been there, or give them an ETA of when it's arriving, or give any late reports that we may have that happened. So do encourage your parents as best that they can to call us directly. If we see that a route, for whatever reason, if it was uncovered, or if the driver just did not make the stop, or if they were excessively late, like more than 30 minutes, and we know a student would not still be outside, we will always coordinate to get a bus back to transport that student. So any parent, again, that is challenged with that, if they call us directly, we can make sure that we get these students a ride to school every day, which is what is most important, so that they can get there to get the education that they certainly deserve. For you at the schools, the important phone numbers are the principal hotline and the lost student line. Those numbers are used for any internal staff at the school, but when dialing those phone numbers, it puts you to the top of the queue. So you're the very next call answered rather than those that called 5074. That is why it's also important to just not give those numbers out to parents. Please make sure that that is your internal staff only. The principal hotline and the lost student line, even though we call them that, again, those are your internal staff numbers. You can call those lines for any questions that you have. You can call the lost student line, even if you're not looking for a lost student, it's okay. But again, that will put you to the top of the queue. So we want to get to you as fast as possible to get your questions answered. And as a reminder, we are, I believe, the only office in the district that is run by the 2 top cartoon characters that there are. Disney characters, as we're normally called, but it is myself, Mickey Cornell, and Minnie Singletary that are your call center supervisors. Certainly was Divine Intervention. That is both of our birth names. Those aren't even nicknames, so it was absolutely meant to be. You can certainly email us anytime if you need any assistance. We do get emails in regards to GPS verifications for attendance purposes or otherwise. So please feel free. You can reach out to us anytime. We try to get back to you as soon as we possibly can. We do support all Columbus City schools and all approximately 130 charter and non-public schools right now. So although we remain busy, we're here for you. feel free at any time to reach out and ask us any questions that you may have. So Lydia, that's the end of my presentation so far. If we maybe want to go into any questions or anything else that I can go into additionally, I'd be happy to do so.
Great. So we'll
What
jump
were
to the
those
first
numbers
question that
again?
was asked about the gentleman on Twitter and the notification system, if we can touch on that question.
Absolutely. So yes, as he stated, and we've asked yearly that be removed from the website. We have not used Twitter in maybe 4 or 5 years now. Currently, the notification system that we have is one that was new to this year. And right now, at this time, the only notifications that are going out to parents. That is because the notification system actually pulls from Infinite Campus. So it does pull the primary contacts 1 and 2, phone numbers for text messaging, and then also emails. We've been trying to work with that company to get school staff built in there, and it's been a little difficult. And I will say, honestly, I don't know that will, excuse me, be done by the end of this school year. And for next school year, they're actually going to a new notification system as well. So unfortunately, yes, right now for you at the school locations, you're not getting those notifications. You're only getting that if we actually call you directly. So the parents are the only ones getting the notifications at this time. But again, for next year, we absolutely expect that to be back to both the parents and the school staff in the new system that we'll have.
Mickey, another question that was in the chat was, can you show them how to use the arrival board properly?
So arrival board, we don't use, and I've never seen. So I'm sorry for that. I do know Mr. Stephen Andrews out of Fleet Services is the one, he with Greg Wisniewski were the ones that worked that out. My understanding on arrival board is it only works for you properly if the driver is in their assigned bus. And it gives you information simply as, again, that bus arriving to your school. What I've heard oftentimes from folks is that it'll show the bus is still at the compound. That means 99% of the time that driver is in a spare bus, but that arrival board does not know that. So probably in those cases, you would have to give us a call to check on that bus for you and see what's going on. But I apologize. But Mr. Stephen Andrews is the contact in regards to arrival board if you have any questions or issues with that.
Ms. Ayers, I'm sorry, Ms. Ayers, I'll do my best to work out with Mr. Andrews a particular training that would assist with the arrival board. Because as Mickey mentioned, that's not their area currently. Another question is, who can we email with routing questions? Our contact used to be Gary Bright, but he's no longer with the district.
Depending on what your question is, I mean, the routers directly are usually the best source. I will say they're inundated, as you can imagine, with emails. If it's something that a general question, we could probably, for the most part, answer it at the call center if you want to try there. But we did have our top 2 routers retired last school year. So we are currently with a new special needs router this year and also a new high school router. But I can certainly give you the names of those routers that if you would like to reach out to. For special needs, though, I will say they have their own email, which is special needs transportation. So you can simply go into email and start typing special needs, and that will come up. For high school, the router is Andrea Brooks. And then for elementary and middle school, the router is Greg McCandless. And again, feel free to reach out them to directly. I will say Greg McCandless is out and is not expected to return till April. So Andrea and the special needs router have been assisting with that. But again, feel free to call the call center directly. And if we can't answer it, we can also get a message to that router for you.
Mickey, what was Andrea's last name?
Brooks.
Brooks, and the other gentleman's name?
Is Greg McCandless, and it's McCandless.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I think someone was asking earlier about those phone numbers again. I can certainly give you those again. Again, the main number is the 365-5074. Principal hotline is going to be 365-8550. And that lost student line is 365-5090.
And we will be sharing the presentation. There was one question in the chat that I just saw. It says, I have several of our students that pick up and choose which days they want to ride their assigned route, while other days be picked up, walk to the library, etc. Is the policy the same that after 10 days of non-use, they are removed from their route?
Yes, and I will say they stuck to that this year more than any other, simply to the staffing issues that we have with the lack of drivers. So students that were not riding, they have been removing those immediately after those 10 days. So yes, any stop that goes 10 days without being used is removed for non-use.
In the chat, there is also an arrival board training that was just posted. I'm not certain as to where that was recorded or who recorded it, but there is a resource out there if you all are looking for that. Are there any more questions out there? Again, please feel free to come off mute. It says process for a caregiver on when there is an address change.
I'm sorry, read that one more time.
It says the process for a caregiver when there is a change of address.
So again, we only transport to and from the home address. So as long as we go by what's an Infinite Campus. So whether the parent did that through the parent portal or through central enrollment, we just go by whatever that primary address is in Infinite Campus. So if you were to change that address today in Infinite Campus, this evening it would feed over into the Versatran system. And within 3 to 5 days, that student would have the new routing determination made for that new address.
Thank you. Ms. Butler, I see your hand up.
Yes, this is Miss Butler. I'm an IA at Dominion Middle School and have a question. We have a special needs student that had been assigned to Maine, a contractor transportation, and their staffing issues, and they haven't picked up this student in over 3 weeks, and he's not been able to attend school. We've tried emailing on the special needs email, and it currently says that it's no longer being monitored. And it lists a Judith somebody, and we've sent an email. Is there someone else? I guess there's a name that you just put in the chat that maybe we can contact to get him to school.
Yeah, I definitely apologize for that. I know we had issues before with Maine that we did contract them and they agreed to transport. And we have found out some of these cases that this is happening. Absolutely. If you call the call center directly, if you or anyone from the school, we can certainly put that in and see what's going on with that. For the ones that I've seen so far that we've had an issue with Maine, we've had to reassign them in some kind of way to a Columbus City bus. And that's sounds like that is what needs to be done with this student as well. But yes, or you can send an email to me. My email is on the screen, or call the call center. We'll definitely get that turned in. That should have been handled within the first couple of days. Definitely 3 weeks is far too long for a student not receiving transportation.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
I have a question. I have a new student that just started, and on their thing, it says impractical to transport.
Oh.
And the parent told me that they said it was because it was they lived within 2 miles. There is a bus route over there because they have to cross Parsons. Who do I contact to get that switched?
So again, you can call the call center for that. Impractical to transport is a flag that only pertains to charter and non-public students. So it sounds like possibly maybe that student just transferred from a charter not public school to Columbus City. So we just have to get that flag removed and inundated. And that will handle the issue in and of itself.
So call the call center?
Definitely. You can call the call center and they can put that request in and we will get that done for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Don't be shy. Feel free to ask any questions you'd like pertaining to transportation.
These are great questions too.
Okay,
Miss-
am I finally unmuted? I've been hitting this mute button forever. Am I finally unmuted? We have a student here, special needs. I'm at South High School, and her sister is a walker, but she normally helps the sister keep her cool on the bus. How would we, and they're saying that there's not many aids available for special needs. So how would we be able to get her sister to ride the bus to help out?
Yeah, that's unfortunate because this time, like I said, the only regular education students that are allowed to ride on those special needs buses are those that are eligible, and a walker unfortunately would not be eligible. So for the special education student, do you have, is an aid required in that student's IEP?
Yes, and they're riding the long bus though. They have one there. She's on a big bus with a bunch of gen ed students.
Yeah, and you're saying, is there no aid that is on that bus?
Right,
in the
there's no
regular-
aid available.
We need to look into that portion for you. We need to look into that because we do need to be accommodating that IEP with that aid. But like I said, unfortunately, I don't think there's any way to override to get the sister to be able to ride. We need to accommodate what's in that IEP for sure. I do know, like you said, we've had staffing issues everywhere. I haven't heard a lot lately in regards to the aids. I thought we were getting better, but it may need to be looked at to get that student on a different bus that does have an aid.
Okay. Thank you.
Mickey,
You're welcome.
there is a question out there. Is there any way to track a student's bus history, including the date range when a stop was active? I haven't figured out a way past seeing present day information in Infinite Campus and Versatrans.
So I'm sorry, say that again. Are we talking about their assignment or just to see if the bus was actually coming?
It just says a student's bus stop history.
Yeah, at this time, there is no way for that.
Okay.
That is something we've started having conversations with Greg Wisniewski last year, asking if we can going forward. He says there's a way to do it. We just have to find out and do it. That in Infinite Campus, just like we have history of enrollment, that we could have history of their prior busing and so forth. We could certainly try for you. I will say every call that comes into the call center does get input into a database system called Sharewell. So we do keep track of every call we received. If that parent or the school or anyone has ever called previously on that child, we can look up the history through that system and see that if we have like what their bus route information and such was before. So we could certainly try that for you if that would help you in any kind of way. If we have history of them calling, we could give you the information based off of that.
Thank you for that, Mickey. There's another comment out there. A change in the rules about siblings not being allowed to ride with their special ed siblings needs to be made. That was just a comment that was out there. And there is another question. Is it possible to go over field trip requests?
Now, I don't know anything about field trip requests, except that you have to do it through Trip Tracker, and we definitely need that 2 weeks notice. That's the most important. But other than that, I do not know anything about field trips. Can give you, we have a new person that does field trips. Could certainly give you her name. You can email her. I don't have her phone number, direct phone number in front of me, but yeah, I apologize. Like I said, all I know is that Trip Tracker is where they have to be requested through, and they do want 2 weeks notice.
Mickey, who's that new person?
First name is Paris with 2 S's, and it's actually a hyphenated first name. It's Paris Simone, and the last name is Ragland, Ragland.
Thank you. There's another comment out there. I usually print out every time we have a change to verify any stop time changes. That's just a comment to the group.
Yeah, and those this year happened quite often. So I appreciate those of you that can keep up with that, and certainly appreciate everyone's patience with us this year. It's been very challenging. But I think things are looking up and looking real good for next school year.
Are there any further questions pertaining to this session about transportation? Nikki, would you?
Oh, I just wanted to say that at Eakin, we have a wonderful bus drivers that are on time and very conscientious. So we're very happy this year with our Eakin drivers.
Thank you for
that.
sharing.
Yes, we don't often get kudos, and we certainly appreciate that. We say that we typically, we only get phone calls when there's something wrong. So we definitely appreciate those kudos. And we do have plenty out there that are doing their best. These drivers this year are absolutely exhausted. They're covering multiple routes, which they don't normally do. But those that do come to work every day, yes, we greatly appreciate them. And just a side note, and I appreciate y'all being here today and know how confusing at times the Versatrans can be. Especially with the what's in effect today, but what's going to change come Thursday or Monday. But just a little side note going forward, next year we are replacing this system. It will be a brand new routing system. So we're going to have a new routing system. We're going to have a new notification system. There's going to be new tablets on the bus. And we do feel very confident with the changes that are going to be made next year that it's going to be for the better. So bear with us. And I'm sure we'll be back in August talking again about the new system.
Are there any questions for anyone else? Thank you all very much for participating in this transportation session. It says Monday, May 1st is School Bus Driver Appreciation Day. Thank you, Nanette. We do want to thank you all for participating in this professional learning opportunity at Versatrans eLink.